Hi guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we're looking at Divi 5 again here, and they've built in a new interactions feature that's awesome. I've got a little button here, it says questions on it. If I click on it, it's going to drop in a little contact form, pop up here. I've got a little X up there. I can hit it. And of course they can fill it out, do what they need to do, and send it off. Now, this is just a simple example. We'll be going through a lot more of these interactions that they've got built in. We were doing this sort of thing with Divi 4, but with Divi 4, we had to throw in a load of JavaScript and a bunch of other stuff. It worked fine, but they've actually built all this in now, which is fantastic. So I'll show you exactly how to do it. I've got the page open here. Let's just go down. I'll delete that section with the button in it, and there's a hidden section right there with our little contact form in it. Let's get rid of that one. And we'll go back to the front end. Okay, it doesn't really matter where you put your button. That's entirely up to you. Let's add a new section right here. Now, I'm not actually going to use a button module. The only reason for that is that when I use a button module, it tends to reload the page and it doesn't work very well. So I'd suggest either using a text module and making it into a button, or using a fantastic blurb module. And I think I just said questions. Didn't have any content there. If you wanted to make it a 2-line button, you could do. I'm just going to keep it very simple. Image and icon. I used an icon rather than the image on there. And what was it? Question, wasn't it? Yeah, that'll do fine. In fact, I think we used that one. Don't need to put a link in. I will give it a background color. Let's just give it a dark background color. That's fine. And let's move over to our design now. The image and icon, or the icon in our case, I want it to be on the left-hand side of the text. I know you can't see that text very well. We'll make that visible in a moment. I'll leave the icon just as it is. And we were using the title text. Let's make it a color we can actually see. Might be useful. There we go. And what we can do, if you want to line it up with your little icon there, we can use line height. If we just drop down a bit, here's the line height. If I increment up a bit, that's about going to do it. We've got to add a little bit of padding on the top. We can do that just down below here in the spacing. Padding top, let's try 15. Maybe a little much, yes. Increment down till it looks about right to you. That'll do for our purposes. Now I'm actually going to shrink this thing down with sizing just above. Let's say 200 pixels. It's not the content width, it's the whole width of the module just down here. And let's put in 200 and see what happens. I think that's going to work right. We've got to put a bit of padding on the left. And because everything else on this page has got the curved corners, we'll do that. Very easy. Spacing. Padding left. Let's try 20. I think that'll work. And finally, we'll just give it those curved corners. And we'll pop it in the middle, which again we can do with sizing, alignment. Perfect. Great. Well, there's what we're going to use to pop up our contact form. Let's create the actual contact form itself. I'm going to add a new section. And we're going to pop up this whole section. I'm just going to put a single column in there. I'm going to throw in a contact form. Obviously, this will work with any modules you want or combinations. And again, let's just make this background perhaps dark. And we'll throw in a little title at the top. So if we actually go in to the form itself, here's our content, text, title. Say reach out today. I know you can barely see that. So again, let's make it a color we want, the title text right here. I'm going to make mine an H3. It doesn't need to be an H1. I'll pop it in the middle and let's make it so we can see it. Fantastic. Let's just bump it up a little bit. Okay. Now, when this pops up, I want it to kind of be in the middle of our page right here. I want a bit of a gap either side. So I'm going to shrink this section down slightly by going into the section itself. I'm going to go to sizing. Width, I'm going to make mine 80%, so 80 and the percent sign. Great. And again, it wants to be aligned in the middle when it pops up. Now, I want it to be absolutely positioned. In other words, I'm going to stick it somewhere and it's going to stay there even though they scroll up the screen. So let's go ahead and do that. Still in our section, if we go over to Advanced and Positioning, we can change it from relative to fixed. I want it right in the middle of my screen, right here. Now, what's happening there, you can see the other sections are rolling over the top of it. That's no good at all. We want it to be on top of everything else. So we can fix that with a Z index that's just down below. It's fixed to auto. Just pop in a high number and you'll see it pop on the top. Just like that. Fantastic. It's a little exaggerated there, but just put in a number until it pops on the top. Great. Well, that's great. So how do we make this pop this up? Initially, I don't want to see this at all. So what we can do, we can hide it with a little simple line of CSS. Still over in Advanced, Custom CSS. Click on the Module Elements tab, Main Element. I'm just going to type in 2 words. Display, colon, none. Boom, gone. But of course, we want to bring it back with this button. How do we do that? This is where the new interactions features come in. It's absolutely awesome. So if we go into this module right here, and we go over to Advanced, here's a new tab called Interactions. If we open it up, I want to add an interaction. I want to click on this button. We could change the cursor type on the button. I'm not actually going to do that with this video today. When we click on it, I want to toggle visibility. That's exactly right. And there's plenty to choose from. You can toggle visibility, show, hide an element, toggle preset, add preset, remove preset, toggle blah, blah, blah. And we'll be doing a lot more of these as we go on. But toggle visibility is going to work perfectly for us because all that's going to do is going to send that display none to display block or something like that, and it'll bring it back. Now we have to select the module we want to target. And when you're selecting, it's going to come down the page. It's going to load the first section, then a row, then 2 modules, then the second section with our button in it in the row, then the third section, which you can't see, which has our contact in it. So we need to find that section. So we look up here. Here's the first section. Roll down a bit more. Here's a second section. It's got our blurb in it. Here's the third section with our contact form in it. So I'm going to select that. So when we click, it's going to toggle the visibility of our contact form section. Don't want any delay. Want it to happen straight away. And in a moment, I'll show you another little trick for closing it out without having to hit that button. But let's say this, make sure it's all going to work for us. So if we go up here now and save draft, and let's preview. Here's our little button that we made. When I click on it, there's our contact form, but it's not really displaying. I think this might be a bug because the row itself, for some reason, is aligning to the left, and I haven't been able to change that. What I can do is make it a full width row, and that'll fix that issue. But I think that's something they need to sort out, but I've got to work around for it for the time being. Now to close this thing, you just have to click the button again, which is okay, but what if they've scrolled and they don't know where the button is? They don't want this thing to be stuck in the middle of the screen all the time unless they want to reach out. So let's fix those couple of issues. A, I want this to be in the middle. And B, I want another option to be able to close out this without having to click on this button again, in case it's hidden or off screen or something like that. So we can do that very easily. You may be ahead of me on some of this too. So let's go back into our section that's got the contact form in it. It's hidden, so we need to go wireframe. Here's our contact form. I'm actually going to go into the row, the green tab. I'm going to make it full width. That way, it'll have to be in the middle. So design, sizing, width, I'm going to make that 100%. And max width, we'll make that 100% also. Got pixels on the end, I'm going to change that to percentage. And just so you can see what's going on, I'm going to remove the display none, so we can see this, and I'll show you how we can add an icon to close it on this. So I'm going to take that away, Control X. We go to the front end now, our little section should be up there. Great. Well, it's added that. I'm going to add a little bit of padding either side. This gets 30 pixels both sides. That's absolutely fine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little icon up here with an X that they can close this out as well as this button. Like I say, if that button's hidden, they're going to be stuck with this. So let's add a new module. I'm going to add an icon module. There we go. I want an X. So let's try close. Perfect. And let's use that little one right there. Style-wise, I just want it to be a little bit smaller, perhaps 35 pixels or something like that. Obviously, adjust to taste. And I want it to be up in this corner over here. So for anybody that doesn't know, all we're going to do is use a bit of absolute positioning for that. Over to advanced position. You're going to change it from default to absolute this time. I want to put it in the top right corner. That looks like it's going to be about the right position for me. Obviously, you can adjust vertical and horizontal offset if you want to. And if it's not sticking on top there, you can adjust the Z index to pull it on top. Great. Well, now we just have to add an interaction to this to close this button, or exactly the same one as we did here. Toggle it, basically, visibility. So, as long as we're on the icon, we're in advanced already. Close that position, go to interactions down below. Going to add an interaction. We're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to go click, toggle visibility, and we've got to find this section again. There's the blurb, there's the contact form section, so it's got to be this one. We'll save our changes. Now let's see what we've got on the other end. It should work perfectly now. I might want to put my CSS code in, so that's not displaying for us. So again, we want to make sure we're in the section. Advanced, custom CSS. We'll pop that little bit of code back in the main element there. It's only 2 words, but I will put this down below for anybody that wants to copy and paste it. Let's try that again. And we'll preview. There's our little button. When we click on it, that's better. The contact form looks a bit more normal there. It's popped up our little contact form here. They can fill it out, send it off, do what they need to do. And when they're done, they can hit this little X up here to get rid of it. Like I say, you can just hit the questions mark there. But if they'd scrolled it out of sight, they may not know how to do that. But they can do it with just adding a little icon and adding that same interaction to it. So there you go, guys. There's how to pop up a contact form from a button. Well, again, we're looking at Divi 5 today, and we've got a great one for you. I'm going to refresh this page. And you'll notice after about 4 seconds, we've got a little pop-up right here. And it's going to stay there if they scroll down the page, which is going to annoy people, but it's going to get their eyes on it pretty quick. Now I've put a little icon there that they can click on and get rid of it. And again, if I refresh, 4 seconds later, that's going to pop up again. 3, 4, there it is. Great. Really easy to do. We're using the new interactions feature of the Divi 5 theme for this today, and there's no coding involved whatsoever. So let's get started. I've got my builder open here. I'm going to get rid of what I've got going on for my pop-up, and we'll start from scratch. We're going to be using a bit of fixed positioning for this today, so it really doesn't matter where you build this on your page. And of course, you could build it into a custom header or global custom footer if you wanted it to appear on every page. So let's just start a new row. I'm going to add a row, a little green button to add a row. I'm going to use a single column for this today. You can use any modules or combinations of modules or wherever you want to fill your row with this. I'm going to use a simple call to action module. Just an example today. So there it is. Now we want a little button on it. Now for anybody that doesn't know, with the call to action module, the button's not going to show up until you put a link in for it down below. That's just under content, under the text here. As soon as you put a link in for your button, it's going to show up right there. Perfect. So this is what we're going to pop up. Now, as we're going to use fixed positioning, I want to give it a sort of little bit of crazy box shadow on the back so it stands out a little bit more. We'll do that in a minute. And also, I want to give it a little icon here that we can use to close it in a moment. So let's get all that done. First things first, I'm going to add the icon. So I'm going to hit the little add new module or row. There's the icon module. My mouse is actually on it. And I'm going to use a close icon, much as we did the other day. And let's use that one again. I'm going to make it white. It'll disappear into that background there. Icon. I'm going to make it white. As you can see, or as you can't see, it's disappeared in the white background there. That's fine. But what I want to do is put it up on the right hand side of here. Now, I know it's going to be too big for the time being. Let's just move it up here so we can see it again. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my advanced. I'm going to go down to position. We're going to change it from the default to absolute. Now, absolute positioning, you can position it anywhere within the parent element. And the parent element of this is the row. There it is right there. Way too big and it's on the wrong side. We've got a little matrix here. Let's put it on the right side. Now let's make it the size that we want it. Now that we can actually see it again. Back to the design. Icon color. Here's the size. I'm going to make mine about 30 pixels. Now it's okay, but I really don't want it to be touching that side or touching the top. So we can use a bit of offset with our icon here. Remember we made it fixed positioning. So if we go back to our advanced and our position, roll down just a little bit, vertical offset, let's take it down by about 10. And the same with the horizontal, we'll bring it in by about 10 pixels, obviously adjust to taste. That's going to work for me. Now the Z index, we don't need to adjust it at the moment. If your icon didn't show up on top of your call to action here, you could just start typing in large numbers until it does. Because what Z index does, it dictates what elements sit on top of other elements. Something with a higher Z index will always appear on top of something with a lower index. But that's working for us. Great. Well, let's add that crazy box shadow. I'm going to do that to the whole row itself. So I'm going to go back into the row, the green tab. Like I say, this is just so it stands out a bit more when it's in fixed position over the top of the other content. I'm going to use an all-round box shadow. I don't want any vertical or horizontal position. I want it to be straight top, straight bottom, equal on all sides. I'm going to make it, let's make it maybe 100. You're going to find it hard to see this little gray. You can see the little gray. I'm going to darken that down in a minute. And, well, we'll try 30. We can always make that a bit bigger. And I'm going to make it a bit darker by pulling this up. Just keep your mouse on it. It'll increment up as much as you want it. I think that's probably going to do it. It's cutting it off there a little bit because we're at the bottom of the page. But now I'm going to put this in fixed position. And that'll make it stand out a bit bigger. I think I can actually bring that up so it's even a little bit darker. So when it sits on top of everything else, if you want to spread this some more, there's the spread. If you want to blur it out more, that's the blur I'm using today. But I think that's going to work. So let's pop this in fixed position. Again, I'm doing this on the row. Again, it's in exactly the same place, advanced and position. This time we're going to use fixed rather than absolute. That means we can put it anywhere on the page itself. Now it's popped it up to the top left hand side there. I want mine smack in the middle. Again, we've got a little matrix here. And here we've got that problem I was talking about with the Z index. It's actually behind all these other modules here, which is not going to work at all. So if I roll down and we just start putting a couple of 9s in there, just put your mouse over it. And if it comes forward like this, you know you've gone high enough. That's great. And you can see that little box shadow is working quite well there for us. But I think what I'll do is I'll shrink this down a little bit in size. And we can do it for all devices very easily. So let's go to our design. I'm going to go to sizing. I'm going to go down to width. I'm going to make it perhaps 50% of the viewable width on desktop. So I put 50 VW, 50 viewable width. And if you're not sure, you can select it from the options down here. There it is right there. That's going to work on desktop. What about tablet? I think that's okay on tablet. A little too skinny on mobile. Let's give it a little bit more on mobile. Let's perhaps make it 80. Obviously adjust yours to taste. That's great. So we know it's going to work on all of our devices now. Now here comes the fun part, because right at the moment, let's just save. Now we'll get rid of this one. We'll preview it. At the moment, this is what we got. It's just going to stay there all the time. Although we put this icon up there, I haven't given it an interaction yet, so it's not going to do anything. So what we need to do is when this page loads, I don't want to see it at all. Then after 4 seconds, I want it to come in. Once it comes in, I want them to be able to close it down by hitting this little X here. And of course, they can read it. They can hit the call to action button, what have you also. So let's add some interactions to make that happen. So we go back to our page here. First thing I want to do is I want to make this icon. I'm just going to click on the icon. I want to set it so it closes down this element. Now, just to make things easier, when you add interactions, it gives you a list of every element on the page. So I'm going to give this an admin label so I can identify it really easily. And this will save you a lot of confusion if you do that. So I've gone to the row. Under content at the bottom, you'll see admin label. I'm going to say pop-up. That's fine. Let's save draft. Okay, well, let's add an interaction now to our little icon. So I'm going to go back into my icon. Over in advanced is where you'll find your interactions. There it is. Let's add an interaction. Now, what I want this little icon to do is when they click on it and hit click, I want it to hide the element. It would have popped up by then, and I just wanted to click on it and hide the element. Now, what element do I want it to hide? Well, this whole row, because the whole row includes our call to action here and the icon. Now, if I click on target module here, roll on down, there's our row. Remember, I called it pop-up. It's put it after it. And that makes it a lot easier to identify than going through all this. That's my top row. That's the next column. There's the icon. If you just give it an admin label, it really is helpful for finding it there. So we've got the row, and that's what we want it to hide when they click on it. Don't want any delay, but I want them to click on it, and I want it to happen straight away. Now, I promised you this without any coding. What I'm going to do at the end of the video, I obviously lied to you. I'm going to add a bit of code, but it's something really simple. The only bit of code I'm going to use is just a bit of CSS that when we hover over our icon, it's going to turn into a hand like you saw there. But we'll do that at the end of the video. Okay, so we've established that this icon can now close our row, our little pop-up row here. But what we've got to do, we've got to go into the row and tell it that we don't want to see it at all when the page loads. So we're going to add an interaction for that. Advanced. There's our interactions again. Let's add an interaction. I'm going to say on page load this time, when the page loads. I want to hide the elements. Make sure we can't see this element initially. And again, we've got to choose the element, roll down. There's our little pop-up. That's what we want to hide. Don't want any delay. I want it to hide it straight away as the page loads. I don't want them to see it. So we'll save that. But 4 seconds after the page loads, or however long you want, I want it to pop up. So let's add another interaction. Again, I'm going to use on page load. This time, I'm going to use show element. Target module, you know what we've got to do. We've got to find that pop up again. There it is. This time, I'm going to give it a delay of 4 seconds. Now, it's set to milliseconds there. You can either change it to seconds by hitting an S there, Or if you want to do it in milliseconds, 4 seconds in milliseconds for anybody that doesn't know is 4,000 milliseconds. It's entirely up to you. Now we've got that, this should actually work. Let's save our changes. We'll save draft. And let's preview the page. And here's our page. 2, 3, 4. There's our pop-up. There's our little icon. Well, obviously you can read it. Click on the thing. There's a little X icon. When I click on it, closes it right out. Just to show you again, let's refresh. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Boom. Clink. Great. And like I said earlier, what I'd like to do when this actually pops up, should be now-ish, is just change the mouse icon so that when we hover over that little X there, it's a hand. And that's really easy. And that's only a little bit of code. I'm sorry, I forgot when I said no coding involved today. I'm just going to add this, but you don't have to do this. This is just personal taste. So let's go back into the icon. Advanced. I'm going to go down custom CSS here, and it's only 2 words. I'm going to go to the module elements. Make sure I'm in the main element. Basically, that's the whole icon right here. I'm just going to write 2 words. All right, cursor, CURSOR, colon, pointer, POINTER. I'm going to put a little semicolon on the end just in case I want to add some more code in a minute. I'm pretty sure I don't. Now, when we hover over it, it's going to change into that little hand icon. So let's save draft again. And we'll just go and refresh this page. 2, 3, 4. Here's our little pop-up. Now when I hover over that little X, as you can see, it's turned into a little hand icon. Take it off the X, it goes back to a regular cursor. Simple bit of CSS. I just thought I'd add that for anybody who'd like to do that. People tend to know what those little hands mean when they pop up there. So there we have it, guys. There's how to create a pop-up with no code using the fantastic new interaction features of Divi 5. We got a great one for you today. With Divi 4, we created a bunch of sections that you could pop up from buttons and things like that. We had to add a bit of JavaScript code and CSS. We've got Divi 5 going on here, and I'm doing the same thing, but we've got absolutely no coding whatsoever. I've got 3 little buttons here. They're actually little blurb modules I've made into buttons. If I click on the first one, it's going to show section 1. Basically a hidden section. You can have any content you want there. And if we hit it again, it'll toggle it off. But we can also do that with other sections, like a services section or something like that. And again, number 3 could be a contact form or a gallery. Really easy. And like I say, the fantastic thing about this is we do not have to add any JavaScript or CSS to make this work. And you can have them all open. If I just hit section 1, it'll pop up on top. Section 2, section 2, section 3. Really nice little feature, really impressive. I'll take you through how to actually do this all today. It's really easy. Like I say, no coding. So let's get started. I've got this page open. I'm going to go down and undo everything I've done. Okay, I've undone everything here. So we just got 3 little buttons made out of blurb modules. Here's the first section, second section, and third section. And each of these sections, if I go into this one, I've given an admin label. This is quite important for finding things when you want to add your interactions. So you can call it what you like, but I would suggest you give anything that you're going to hide and show a name so you find it easier. And I'll show you why in a moment. Great. So this is just a regular page. Now you may ask why I've actually used blurb modules instead of buttons. You can do this with buttons, but the only trouble with buttons is it's going to refresh the page, so it doesn't work. For anybody that doesn't know what I've done here, let's start from scratch. I'm going to delete this little blurb module. I'm going to add a new one. Like I say, you can use a regular text module for this if you want to keep it simple. I just thought I'd add the blurb with a little icon there. And we'll say section 1, or whatever you want to call yours, contact form, whatever you're popping up. Don't want any content in there. I'm going to use an icon instead of an image. Pop down and use an icon. I use that little double arrow to the right there. I'm not going to put any link in there. Background wise, I'm going to make it that default blue. That icon's going to disappear because that's the same color. Now, if we pop over to design, image and icon, we're going to have that white. I think I made it about 25 pixels. I actually want it on the left-hand side. Fine. Yeah, let's go for 25. I think that's what I used before. Yeah, it looks pretty similar. And we can adjust that text, bring it down a little bit so it's more in line. That's a heading text, remember. We use our heading back here. So if we go to design and heading text, or title text, I should say then. Again, I'm going to make it white so we can see it nicely. Text size is fine. I just want to bring it down a little bit. To do that, I'm going to use line height. I'm just going to increment down a little bit. That's almost there. Something like that. When it looks right to you, that's fine. Then we can use a bit of spacing and sizing to make it the shape that we want it. So if we close up title text or just roll on down, spacing wise, I'm going to give it perhaps 15 pixels padding on the left. So if we go down here, padding left, 15, just hit enter. It's got pixels by default. Let's add maybe 10 to the top. See what we've got going on here. I think that's pretty much how we had it. And then width wise, I gave it a fixed width. Let's just go into this one. I think it's about 150, possibly 200 pixels. In sizing, 180 pixels. We made it. Let's go back in here. Design sizing, 180 pixels. Width, 180. Put the PX on at the end. Otherwise, it'll try and put in a percentage there, which will not work. Great. That's pretty much how we want it. But I do want it in the middle. And we can just go down to alignment, pop it in the middle. Great. So we got the basis of our buttons here. Remember, there's no links on any of these. Now, what do we want to do? Well, when the page loads, I don't want to see section 1, section 2, or section 3. I only want to pop those up when they click on these. So the first thing we've got to do is work on our sections. And like I say, each of these sections, if I go in it, I've given it an admin label, S1, S2, funnily enough, and S3, just so we can find them a lot easier. Not sure what I'm talking about. You will do in a second. So what we need to do is hide these sections on page load. So we're in section 1 here. I'm going to go over to advanced. This is where you'll find the new interactions tab right here on the right hand side under conditions. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to add an interaction. I want to tell it that on page load, so I'm going to go down to load. I want this particular thing to be hidden. So I'm going to say on page load hide element. Now, which element do we want to hide? It's this one that we called S1. So if we click on target module, it's going to show us the whole page in a tree like this. You might think, well, I've got to go through section 1, blah, 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 blah. But because I put them admin labels in there, you can see it says S1, S2. It just makes it a lot easier to find. So just bear that in mind when you're working with these interactions. So I want to hide section 1. When I click on this and save it, it should disappear. Fantastic. We're on section 2. We want to do exactly the same thing with section 2. Advanced interactions. Add an interaction on page load. We want to hide it. Which one is it? It's S2, this one. There we are, S2. We'll save that one. I'm going to go into the third one. You know exactly what I'm going to do here. Now, for full transparency here, with this new interactions feature, when I've saved it, sometimes it doesn't save the actual module you're targeting. So if you're having problems, check that first. So I want to hide this one on page load. Target module, occasionally, for some reason, when you save it, doesn't save it and you have to go in and redo it. We're on the alpha version still of Divi 5 here. So that may be a little bit they need to iron out, but I'm sure they will. So we'll save this one. It should disappear also. Fantastic. Now, to enable these buttons to bring these sections back, And like I say, I've kept mine very boring. Section 1, 2, 3. It could be about us, contact form, or contact form 2, contact form, whatever you want to pop up on yours. So we need to go into our first one here. You know what we're going to do. We're going to go advanced and interactions. We're going to add an interaction for this one. What do we want it to do? When we click on it, I want it to toggle the visibility of a section. Now, if it's visible and we click on it, it's going to disappear. If it's invisible and we click on it, it's going to appear. So that works great. Target module, section 1. So this is going to be S1. Oops. Perfect. Save. And here's an example that S3 should still be invisible on this back end. What I think's happened, and we'll check that, we'll go in there. I think it's forgotten my little interaction there. Let's go in there. It's changed it from toggle visibility, unless I did that by mistake just now. I actually want to hide that element. Great. So we've done the interaction for section 1. We want to do the same thing for section 2 to bring up section 2. Advanced interactions. On click. Toggle visibility is fine. We want to go through, and this is S2. We're looking for section 2. Or whatever you've called yours, obviously. And exactly the same for number 3. Advanced interactions. Add an interaction. When we click on it, what do we want to do? Toggle visibility is fine. Number 3, S3, should be down here. There we go. Great. Once we've done that, it's looking good on the back end here. Let's save our changes now. Save draft. And we'll preview. And here we have it. As you can see, or as you can't see because they're not there, those sections aren't there. Here's our buttons. Section 1. Popped up section 1. Section 2 should add it below section 1 there. Perfect. Section 3. You know what that's going to do. And like I say, we toggle them all back off. Doesn't matter what order you do it in. If you want section 2 to pop up, bunk. Want section 3 to pop up, bunk. Really handy. Now, the reason I didn't use buttons for this is because when you click on those buttons, you need to put a link in. And what's going to happen is it's going to take you back to the top of the page, even if you put a hashtag in. Somebody suggested this, and it'll work if you've got your buttons at the top of the page, but it's always going to scroll back to the top of the page if you're using those. And that's why I use these little blur modules. Now, if you wanted to, you could add another interaction that when you clicked on it, it would actually scroll down to that section. So it would be like that. For anybody that's interested, let's just do that quickly. You can have multiple interactions on each button. So if we go back in here, button 1, well, let's work on button 3. It really doesn't matter. That section's appeared because I've just clicked on it. We're on the button, or the blur module that we're using for the button. Advanced, add interaction. On click, not only is it going to toggle the visibility, but we want to scroll to element. Which element do we want to go to? Number 3 again. So let's try that. I didn't actually try this earlier, but it is an option, so I'll probably explore it with you. Okay, well, let's save that now and see what we've got. Preview. Okay, so 1 is just going to open 1. 2 is going to open 2. I'm going to leave that open. This one should open section 3 below 2, and it should scroll down to it. Let's see what happens. There we have it. Looks like we could put an offset off there. It's scrolled to right at the top there. But you get the idea. And we can close it. Close section 2. Let's try that one more time. Yeah, we just need to give it a bit of an offset. And that's fantastic. But that's just another little option for you. I was happy with the way it was. Let's just take that little interaction away. Just wanted to prove to you, you can add multiple interactions to make all kind of crazy things happen. We'll resave. And we'll re-preview. I love the quickness of this thing too. Fantastic. So there we have it, guys. We've created some buttons using blurbs. If anybody comes across a way to do with a regular button that doesn't go to the top of the page, then please let me know. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. And of course you can have them all or none of them. So there we go, guys. I really do think that's a fantastic feature that they've added. Like I say, we were doing this with Divi 4, but we had to add some JavaScript and some CSS to actually make this work. And it worked absolutely flawlessly, but here it is without code. Really impressed. So there we go, guys. There's another little look at the interactions feature that they've added to Divi 5. We'll be doing a lot more with this as we go along. We've got a little hero section here with a title, beautiful picture in the background there. Little button that says more info there. When I click on it, it's going to pop up some more info and they can read it. They can interact with it. If they need to, they can click on the button, close it. With Divi 4, we had to do a whole load of coding to make this happen. Today, we're going to use the Divi Interactions new feature to do this. And it works perfectly on tablet and mobile. If I hit my F12 key, I'm on Google Chrome. Here we have it on an iPhone 12. I've got a different picture in the background for that one. But of course, when we hit the more info, we've got our info pop up. And again, they can hide it again if they want to. And on a tablet, exactly the same sort of thing. Really nice little feature to have on your site, especially if you're showcasing a product or a car or something like that. Really easy to do. I'll show you exactly how to do it. So let's get started. I've got this page open in my builder over here. Let's flip back to desktop mode and we'll delete everything we've got here and start from scratch. As with a new page, Divi puts a section in there, wants you to put in a little row. Well, the first thing I'm going to put in is a single row. I'm going to use a little heading module for my heading today. And I just put my crazy car name in there. Okay, well, I want a picture of the car to be here at all times, and I want it to be full screen on all devices. So I'm going to go into the section again, the blue tab. I'm going to go down to background. You'll always find that under content. Third tab along, background image. Let's add background image. That'll do fine. That's not really going to work. It's sort of squished up against the top. Like I say, I want it to be full screen on all devices, so it's stretching enough full width and the full height, no matter what device they're looking at it on. To achieve that, still in the section, I'm going to go to design. I'm sure some of you are ahead of me. Sizing. I'm going to use minimum height because on real small phones, it may want to get bigger. I'm going to type in 100 and VH for viewable height. Or you can select viewable height over here, right there. Great, exactly what I want. So this is going to be full height on all devices. But let's check it out on a tablet. Okay, but we're losing some of our car, and I've got a different image that's cropped slightly different. And it's okay to put different images on different devices. Really easy to do too. So still, while we're on the tablet mode, again, still in the section, I'm going to go to content where we put our background image. I'm going to put a completely different image in that's cropped better for a tablet and a phone. Perfect. Let's have a look on a mobile device. Yeah, that's going to work fine on that one too. Something that a lot of people don't seem to realize is you can put different background images in on different devices. Really little handy trick. Okay, well, my title's not looking too good there. Let's jazz it up a little bit. We'll go into the title module. I'm going to go over to design. It's heading text. I don't really want it to be a heading one. I could be for this page if that was all it was about. I'm going to make mine a heading 2. I'm going to use a blocky font that I've used before called Anton. I've got it saved in my recents up here. To audition one of these fonts, just roll over it. It'll give you an example. I'm happy to use Anton. Let's make it so we can see it. I'll make it white in color. Great. I'm going to make it an awful lot bigger. I think I perhaps used 110 pixels. I don't know why that's sticking in my mind last time. That looks about right. Great. I'm going to shift it to the middle. And just to keep it in fashion with our little blue car here, I'm going to give it a sort of text shadow, but I'm going to use a bit of blue for the color. Roll down a little bit more. I'm going to use text shadow. Try putting in first one here. And for the color, I'm going to use the default light blue. It'll give it a little blue glow to the background. That's a little bit too much for me there. Let's flip through a couple of these. Still a little bit too much. That's more like it. Something like that will work for me. I'm going to leave it just like that. If it's still too much for you, you can just reset that color. Or perhaps we'll use the darker blue. It'll be a little more subtle. I quite like the light blue, so let's reset. Pop it back to the light blue. Great. Okay. Now we need to build the section that we want to pop up here. Whatever it is you want to build. For mine, I'm going to add a new row. I'm going to throw 2 columns in mine. In the first column, you can make yours as complex as you want to. I'm going to put a blurb module. For the image, let's go into the blurb. I'll leave on all the default stuff there. But for the image, we can go down image and icon. We'll throw in a different image of the car, perhaps. I think that's the one I used before. I'm going to leave everything else just like it is. Let's just go into the text and make that light in color so that we can see it. And we're going to pop up this whole row. I'm going to go into the row itself, the green tab, and give it a background so it stands out a little bit more when it pops out. As we said before, background's always under content. I'm just going to give it a black color. But I'm going to take the opacity down slightly so we can see a bit of the car or whatever it is behind it, just like that. And I'll give it a bit of breathing space by giving it a bit of padding all around. To do that, we can go into design, spacing. You'll always find margin and padding. Let's perhaps give it 2% all around. We'll try that. 2 in the percent right there. That's what we're going to have all around. I think that's going to work fine. Let's put it on the bottom as well. And we'll do the same for left and right. Yeah, that works for me. Great. Then over here, I put in a little call to action module so they can interact with it. What you want to say in yours. And for the button, that's a take a test drive. Button won't show up till we put a link in for it. Obviously, we can do that just down below in the link. You want to take them somewhere with that. To your contact form or obviously whatever you want to do. I think I'm just going to make that uppercase and leave it just as it is. In design, here's the button. Use custom styles. Button text. I think all I'm going to do is make that uppercase. Take it down a little bit in size. Maybe 16 pixels. Obviously adjust it to taste. Now to make it a little bit more interesting, I threw an image in the background here and blended it with that black background blue. So to do that, over in content, we'll find our background again. Let's add an image. I think I used that one. It's kind of made the writing a little difficult to read, so let's blend it with that blue that's in there. Color blue there, and you can change that for anything you want, obviously. Do that by rolling down a bit. Background image blend. I'm going to multiply it. Great. Our text is very readable there. Now for the last thing that we want to pop up here, I'm just putting a little price in, a crazy price. Obviously you'd have some real stuff to put in here. And as I said before, you can make it as detailed as you want to. I'm going to add a new module. I'm going to use a fantastic little blurb module again. This time I don't want any content. I'm going to put a crazy price in, whatever these things cost. Let's say $1,452,328.00. I could have put a 99 on the end there, I suppose. I don't want to use an image. I'm going to use an icon today. I want a dollar sign, so let's find one of those. Perfect. I'm going to leave it just like that. I'm going to hop over to design now. Image and icon. I'm actually going to leave it that blue color, but I do want it to be on the left-hand side. So instead of top, I'm going to left click, flip it to the left-hand side. And for my title text, remember the number is a title there. Let's make that a color we can see. I'll make it a lot bigger. Try 30 pixels, see how we get on with that. That's fine. I'm going to throw it over the right-hand side. Great. So this is what we're going to have pop up. And we'll have this on desktop. Similar layout on tablet, which will work fine there. On mobile, they're going to stack. For me, I think that's going to work fine. If you wanted to, you could hide this module if it's too deep on mobile. I think I did that before, or just the image. If you wanted to hide the whole module on mobile, let's make sure we're in the right module here, the blurred module. Advanced visibility. And if you get to it and it's grayed out like this and it says you can't do it, all we need to do is flip back to desktop mode. We're still in the same module. We're still on visibility, but we can do it now. And we can disable this one on phone. Great. If we flip back to phone now, that'll be slightly grayed out, telling us it's not going to appear on the phone. If you just wanted to do the image, you could go into the module itself, down to the image, just delete that image. As we're on mobile phone, it'll just delete it on mobile. You'll still have it on tablet and desktop. So great. I'm going to leave it like that. We've just hidden that on mobile there. We may want to change our text on tablet and mobile, and we'll test it in the real browser in a minute. Let's go back to the desktop. I'm fairly happy with that. Now I'm going to add a little button that we're going to use to hide and show this thing. Now initially this row, I'm going to go into the row. To use interactions, it's always a great idea to give whatever it is you're interacting with an admin label. So I'm going to go into the row. Down at the bottom, you'll find admin label. Let's just call it car pop-up or something. It's something to identify it. For anybody that doesn't realize what I'm talking about, let's just save that. I'll go to wireframe mode. When we look at our row now, it's got the name of car pop-up. It's going to make it really a lot easier to identify when we add an interaction to our button, which we're going to do next. So let's add another row, because we don't want to put the pop-up button in this row because you won't see it when we make this invisible. I'm going to use a single column. Funnily enough, I'm going to use a button module. And we're going to have it say more info. Obviously, whatever you want to say for yours. For the link, I'm not going to put anything in for the minute. Don't want a loop or anything like that. Let's just go over to our design. Alignment. I want a button to be in the middle. Text. Well, let's do that in the button. I'm going to go into the button itself, use custom styles. For the button background, again, I'm just going to use that default blue color we've been using. But I'm going to take a bit of the opacity away. Up here, let's make it perhaps 50% opaque so we can see through it a little bit there. Button border. I want it to be white, but I only want it to be perhaps 1 pixel. And let's do the button text. Default font's fine. I'm going to make it uppercase. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. Again, let's try 16. I want it to be a good color that we can see, which would be white again. Fantastic. And if we want to give it that similar glow as we did to this up here, just to make it stand out a little bit more, very easily done. Over in box shadow down below. Again, I'll try this first one. We'll try that light blue. If it's too much, we'll use a darker blue. I think that's okay. That's going to work fine for me. Now, if you want to have a different color when we hover over the button, I could have done that when we were in there just now. Back into the button background. Let's go up here, little computer type icon, left click, flip it to hover. We can change any of our settings now and have them different color on hover or whatever you want to do. Let's darken it down a little bit perhaps on hover. Fantastic. When you're happy, we can flip back. And we can close up a little button right there. Fantastic. Okay, how do we make this pop up? Well, firstly, we want to hide it. So if we go into our row, we want it to be invisible on all devices when the page loads. So I'm going to go over to advanced, down to visibility. I'm going to hide it on all devices. Great. And it's grayed it out a little bit just to let it know on the back end it's not going to be there for us. And we gave it an admin label. So let's go back into our button now and make this happen. So once in the button, it'll tell us up there. We can go over to advanced and find the new interactions tab. Let's add an interaction. How do we want to interact? Well, we want people to click on this little button right here. So I'm going to put click. Don't need an admin label. Want it to happen on click. We want to toggle the visibility is exactly what we do. What that means is if it's invisible, it's going to show it. If it's invisible and I click again, it's going to hide it. Target module. Now this is where the admin label comes in. It's going to load everything on the page from the first section to the first row, first column to the first heading. That's why in the row we gave it the admin label car pop-up. Makes it really easy to find. Fantastic. Don't want any delay. Want it to happen as soon as they click on it. Well, let's save our changes now and see what's going to happen. Let's save that. Let's save draft. Let's preview. There we have it. We've got the nice picture of the car on the page. Our section's always going to be 100% of the screen size on all devices. Hopefully when I click on this button, it's going to pop up a little info section there. They can go in there, read it, interact with it. If they want to, they can click back on the button, hide it again. And let's have a look on tablet and mobile. I'm going to hit my F12 key. Here we have it on an iPad. Perfect. Was going to change the text size, but I think that's going to work fine. If you've got a complex section here, you can always roll down a little bit. I might change the padding on this because that's a little squashed up for me on tablet. Real easy fix. And let's have a look on perhaps an iPhone. Yeah, we need to take that text down on an iPhone. And let's just close this up. Initially, this is what they're going to see. That does not look good. And we click on the button. And this stuff's okay. Remember, we hid that info section just on mobile, as you can see, or as you can't see, it's not there. And we can close back up. Do need to fix that on phone. And the padding on tablet. Let's get that done and we should be good to go. So on tablet, I'm going to go into this module here, which is our call to action. I'm going to go design and spacing. It's not got anything for left and right. I'm going to put in, let's try putting in 20 pixels and see if that spreads it out just a little bit. I think that'll work for me on that one. Then on mobile, we really needed to take this text down by quite a bit. So if we go into our heading text, design, heading text, here was our H2. Still 110. What if we made it 50? We'll try that. Now let's save our changes. Now that we've debugged, we'll preview again. So again, on desktop, we've got it here. That's working perfectly on desktop, just what I wanted. Let's have a look again on the iPad Air. That's better. The button's not so squashed up there. That's absolutely fine. And on mobile, that title should hopefully fit now. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I took it down quite a bit. You can take it to wherever you want. But do check it on the browser because in the builder, it'll get you close, but you may have a discrepancy in the browser. And obviously, once you go live, if you can, check it on the real devices themselves. It'll save you a lot of headaches later on. So I'm fairly happy with that. So there we have it, guys. There's how to use a new interactions feature to build a little hero section with a pop-up info that people can read and interact with. We've got Divi 5 here, and we're continuing on. We built these little interactive image swaps. I've got an image of this car here. If I click on image 2 here, it's going to swap it for the red one. Back to image 1. Obviously, it's going to go back to image 1. Really great for before and afters. We used to do this with Divi 4 on several sort of pressure washer type sites for their before and after pictures. But we had to use JavaScript for that. With Divi 5, there's no coding involved whatsoever. And you can do it with modules and images if you want to. At the moment, we've got the image. If we want to bring in a blur module, it's right there. Of course, you can make these as complex or as simple as you want by using a group module and putting all kinds of stuff in and flipping back and forth. Like I say, no coding involved in this at all today. We're using the great new Divi 5 interactions to do this. Let's get started. I've got this page open here. Well, let's add a new row and we'll start from scratch. Now, obviously, you can configure this how you like. You can have the buttons in a different row if you wanted to. I'm actually going to use something like this little flex column with a smaller one on the right. In my column here, I'm going to add the image and we're going to flip between two images. There's an image module right there. Perfect. Let's just click on this, throw in whatever image you want to have in yours. And over here in this column, funny enough, I'm going to add a couple of buttons. Here's one. Let's style it how we want it before we duplicate it. Now with mine, I just gave it a background and I put my buttons in absolute position. Obviously, styling is entirely up to you. If you want to do that, I just gave the row a background color, green tab there for the row, down to background. It's always under content background. And let's throw nice dark gray or something in there. Perfect. Let's go into the button there. Now you'll notice I'm not going to put a link in there. And put whatever you want to say in yours, up here obviously. I'm going to do a little bit of styling on it. Keep it very minimal. Over in design, button, custom styles. Button background, I'm going to keep that default light blue for the background as well by hitting the little plus there. There's the light blue. I'm just going to choose that one. Close that up. Not going to mess with the border, that's fine. Button text, we'll make that black also. Now let's make it uppercase. Fantastic. When it looks like you want it, I'm just going to duplicate it, 2 little squares there. This next one, content, will it be image B, or whatever you want to say, obviously. And now, rather than using padding and margins and things, I'm going to go into the column itself and just use the flex to position it. So if we go into the row, we've got 2 columns. Left one's got the image in it, right one's got our little buttons in it. Let's go into the right one. Under design and layout, by default, it's going to be set to flex. I want mine to be top and bottom, just like that. I think I like to have mine right side. Perfect. But I will use just a little bit of margin for each to bring it in more like we've got there. For that, I'm going to go back into the button. Design, spacing. Use margin for buttons. If you use padding, it makes the button deeper or wider. So we'll use margin for that. At the top, I think I'm just going to use 15 pixels. Adjust it from there. Looks about right for me. And I'll do the same on the right. Great. Now I'm going to do the same for this one. Well, actually, it's going to be a mirror for this one. But into design and spacing. Don't want any on the top. This time we want it on the bottom. I used 15 before. We use that again. Great. And we want 15 right also. Perfect. Okay, well, let's make this happen. If you watch any of my Divi hover effects videos, you're going to know how I've done this. What we need to do is the image that's sitting in this column here, we're going to put an image behind it in the actual column. So again, just click on the row. This is our first column. I'm going to go down to background. I'm going to go across. We'll throw the image we want to switch with in the background there. Use that crazy truck. Now you can't see it, obviously, it's behind there, but that's what we got these buttons to do. Like I say, this is fantastic for before and after pictures with some sites we've done before. So here's where we're going to add the interactions. Now my image here, I'm going to go into it. It says image up the top there. I'm going to give it an admin label that I can see, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to call it IMSW. It's my shorthand for image switch. Call it what you want, but we're going to give it an admin label. Now we can actually add the interactions. So to do that, I'm going to go into the buttons. Image 1, we want to show image 1, which is this one. Now with Divi 5, you can go over to Advanced, you'll find the new Interactions tab. We need to add an interaction. On click, I want it to show the element. If it's showing already, it's not going to do anything. But if the other one's showing and they click on image 8, it's going to show it. Target module, this is where the admin label comes in handy. If we click on this one, it's going to open the tree of everything on the page. Now remember I gave it that admin label, switch, IMSW. There it is right there. It makes it a lot easier to find in a hurry if you've got a whole page full of stuff. So I'm going to click on that one as the target. Perfect. Now what we need to do is go into the next button and button B. Now, rather than telling it to show the other image, we're going to tell it to hide this image here. And I'm sure some of you are ahead of me on this one. If we go over to Advanced and Interactions here, again, we'll add an interaction. We want it to happen on click. We want to hide an element. So we're going to hide this one so you'll see the one that's underneath. And again, we got the same target. And we gave it that admin label. There it is right there. Perfect. So we've done everything correctly with this one. It should work. But before we do that, let's make sure it's going to work on tablet and mobile. We need to set a sort of minimum height, really. If we don't, let's save this. I'll show you what's going to happen. It's going to shrink up when we hide one of the images. So if I save this, hit my preview button. Here's our new one down here. Image A is the one we're looking at. So if I hit image B, this should disappear. We'll see the other one, but it's going to shrink up. Watch. Because there's no actual content in there to keep its height. So we need to really give this a minimal height on our devices. Really easy to do. Let's get our image A back. You know, the clicking part's working. So to do this, I'm going to go into the row itself. I'm going to give it a minimum height. And at the moment, it sort of looks like about 50% of the screen. So once in the row, over to design and sizing. Like I say, I'm going to use minimum height because on smaller devices, that way it can get bigger if it needs to. So let's start off with 50 viewable height, VH. That's okay. If you look at the bottom there, there's a little bit of an overhang there. And that's the image from underneath. This image isn't quite tall enough. So we can go down one. That looks like it's going to work perfectly there. Let's look on tablet. Again, we've got way too much here. On tablet, let's try 30 perhaps. Maybe a little too short. We'll keep going up till we see a bit of overspill. Oh, too much. There we go. Perfect. And on mobile, we're going to probably need to readjust. Yeah, it's done that. So we can go into our column and change the flex direction of these buttons quite easily. Just on mobile. We're on the row. If we go to content, this is column 2. Design, layout. It's on flex. What if we have it this way? That's fine, but we've got our padding on those buttons here, so I need to adjust. Just on button A, we'll probably do it here. So if I go into button A now, design and spacing, I need to give it a bit of margin and 15 on the left. And we can take those other ones away if we want to. That's going to work perfectly for me. Great. So if we've done everything correctly now, let's go back to our desktop version. We should be good to go. And I'll show you how to do it with the blurb. I'm sure you figured it out, but for anybody that hasn't, I'll show you in just a moment. So we'll save draft and we'll re-preview. And let's roll on down. There it is. This time when we click on image B, it's going to stay the correct size for us. Perfect. Just exactly what we wanted there. How to do it with a module like we have here. Switch from an image to a module or a module to image, whichever way around. I'm sure you figured that out. Really easy. I'm going to duplicate this module right here by duplicating the row, 2 little squares right there. Let's get rid of our image module this time. We'll go into the row and the column that it's in, column 1. Now we'll get rid of that image, put in a different one. And we'll have to do our interactions over with these buttons again. And this one, let's throw a blurb or something like that on top. That's what I did before. Obviously, you throw whatever you want. You can use a group module and throw in all kind of different things. I'm going to keep it fairly simple with a blurb here. I'll leave all that just as it is. Let's use an icon instead of an image, perhaps. And we'll give this a background. Perhaps a black. And we want to make it cover the whole of our area here. So I'm actually going to use a bit of padding to do that for this one. Over in design, spacing. Start out with 100. Top and bottom. Almost there. Maybe want a little bit more perhaps. I know it's doing it because it's stretching the bottom. So there we go. When it's not moving, I know it's about right. So 100 is about right. Now let's make the blurb so we can actually read it. While we're in here, design, text, I'll just make that light. And of course, if you want some of the image behind bleeding through, very easily done. Back in content and background, just click on the color itself. You find the opacity slider, the variegated one here. Just pull that down. You'll have a hint of the image behind it. Obviously, all the ways are going to show it completely. Just pull it down if you want a little hint just like that. Great. Now, depending on which way around, whether you want to show the image first or the blurb first. So in this scenario, I'm going to show the blurb first and then the image. So let's go into this button. And we need to redo the interaction over in advanced interactions, get rid of the one that's there. With this one, we're going to add it. On click. We want to make sure it shows our blurb module, target module. We gave it B button admin label. There it is. Perfect. And with this button, we'll go in there. I guess we'll just call it image. There's no other image. And again, we need to go over to the advanced, redo the interaction. We need to go in there, get rid of that one. We'll add our new one. Again, on click. We want to make sure that we hide the blurb so we can see the image. Target module. There it is again. Perfect. And that should work now. Let's save our changes here. Save draft. And we'll re-preview. Roll on down. There we have it. We've got our blurb showing. I click on the image. We've got our image. I click back on the blurb. We got our blurb back. Really nice little interactive feature. Really easy to do. Like I say, you don't have your buttons here. You can have it underneath. You can have them left and right. We had a few people asking, can I click on such and such and make something happen on a different element? You can with interactions, and we'll be doing a lot more of these in future videos. So I hope you've enjoyed this today. As you can see, great thing about it, no coding. Fantastic new features, Divi 5. Well, we've got a fun one for you today. We're working with the Divi 5 theme again. We've got a little module here. It's a little Divi blur module. And when I click on the more info, it's going to toggle into a call to action module that has a little button. Or if they don't want to click on the button, they can close it out, go back to the little blurb module again. Of course, you can use any modules you like. In fact, anywhere that I click on this one, it's going to take us to that call to action, and they can close it out right there. No coding involved in this today. We're using the fantastic new interactions from Divi 5. So let's get started. I've got this page open over here. Okay, and what I've got, let's flip to wireframe mode and you can see what I've got going on. I've got a single row here with 2 columns in my particular row. So let's just add one on the right hand side here. Again, I'm going to start off with a blurb module. Like I say, you can use any modules you want for this. I'm going to leave the default in there. I'm just going to shave off a bit of this text and add a sort of ... more info or whatever you want to put on yours. I'm going to do mine in capitals. I'm actually going to make that a different color from the rest of the text by selecting it. Going up to that little A up there. Let's make it a crazy color that's going to stand out. I'll make it that aqua. I think that's what I used over here. Okay, well, I'm going to use an icon instead of an image. I'm going to flip the little switch here. And let's just use one of these. Great. Not going to link anything on this particular blurb module. Background, let's make it a little bit more interesting. I'm going to throw an image in the back. Throw in one of these crazy cars, perhaps. But I want to be able to still read that writing, so I'm going to blend it with a color or a gradient. Let's just go for a color. Add a background color. I'm going to use the default light blue there just to save a bit of time. But I want to take the opacity down a bit. So I'm just going to click on it. Perhaps take it down to about 50%. Maybe too much. If we go back to our image now, we can roll down a little bit and blend it with that color. We're going to multiply. And I think we may want to take it down a little bit more. So I'm going to turn that wide and right. Or I should say bring it up a little bit more. Let's take it up to about 80%. I think that'll do nicely. Perfect. Now if I go over to my design tab, the icon, we're going to make it white in color. We'll make it a lot smaller. Let's perhaps make it 50 pixels. Obviously, this is all up to you how you design yours. I'm just going to roll down below to the text. You can do the title separately in body if you want to. I'm just going to flip mine from dark to light. Great. Well, let's roll down a little bit more to our spacing. We'll give this a bit of padding left and right. I think I'm going to use a percentage So I'm going to click on the left there. I'm going to say 10 and the percent sign there, or you can select percent over here if you want to. I want it to be the same on both sides. So I'm going to hit the little chain to make it the same. Top and bottom, I'll give it a bit of padding. I am going to give this a fixed height in a minute, so it negates the bottom padding a little bit. But let's just go on the top, and let's perhaps give it, we'll try 8%. Again, you can either type the percentage in or select it there. That's okay. It looks similar to what I did next door. I want to try and keep it fairly similar. Great. So we got our little blur module there, but I actually want to give this a fixed height. I'm going to use the same height that I used on our one next door here. So still in design, I can close out spacing. And I'm going to go into sizing. I'm going to roll down to height there. On desktop, I think I use 300 pixels. Looks about right. Now we will need to adjust it for tablet and mobile if it's going to work correctly. On tablet, I think I use about 450 because it stretches out quite a bit. So let's go for 450. And then on mobile, I think we'll go back to 400. Just want to make sure that you get all your content in on all devices and it's not squashing up. That looks great. Let's go back to our desktop version now. Okay, how are we going to add the module? We need to add the module now that we're going to flip between. And again, I'll use a call to action. Again, you can use whatever module you want. So I'm going to hit the little plus, add a new module. I'm going to use a call to action module. And it's added it just below here. Now what I want this module to be exactly the same height as this module here, and I don't want any gap there. So first things first, let's get rid of this gap. To do that, that's in the column that these are sitting in. So if we go back to our row, we've got two columns. This is column 1. We're working on column 2 here. Just go in there. We can go over design layout. Flex will be selected by default. To get rid of the gap, we can just go down to vertical gap there. Put a 0 in. Boom, gone. Perfect. Now what we can do, we can go back into our call to action. First thing we want is a button. Obviously, you want to put in whatever text and things you want in there. Before the button's going to show up, you have to go down to link just below the text under content there. Put your link URL in where you want to take your people. Once you do that, it's going to show up. Obviously, you can style this thing however you wish. Now, height-wise, it looks about right, but we want to match it exactly to this one here. So let's go over to our design and our sizing. And we'll go down height-wise. In the regular height module there, we use 300 on desktop. Perfect. It's just a little bit deep it was there. Then we're on tablet, we use 450. And on mobile, we use 400. Great. So we've matched their height on both devices here. So how are we going to make this work? Well, I'm going to show you a little trick that I've used on a lot of my hover effects. Have a look at my hover effects playlist when we were doing them with Divi 4. I'm going to use a bit of negative margin. So in the call to action module itself, still in design, I'm going to close up our sizing there and go to spacing down underneath. I'm going to use some negative margin to pull it on top of our blur module here. Now we know that's 300 pixels on desktop. So if I crank it down to -1, and put negative 300 in there, it's sitting on top. And of course, we want to adjust on the tablet and mobile. We'll need negative 450 on tablet, and we need negative 400 on mobile. Fantastic. Great, well, let's add the interactions. So let's think about this. Initially, we don't want to see the call to action at all on any devices. We just want to see the blurb module. So while we're in the call to action, let's go over to advanced and visibility. We can hide it. Let's disable it on phone, tablet, and desktop. See, it grays it out there when we do that. Now then, what we need to do is go into our blurb module and add an interaction to bring it back. So let's go into wireframe mode, where we can still see everything we've got there. Here's our blurb. Here's our call to action. Let's give these some admin labels so we can pick them out when we add the interactions. So under content right at the bottom, you'll see admin label. And if you're not sure what I'm doing, it'll make sense in a minute. I'll call this BL2 for blurb 2. Our call to action, funnily enough, I'm going to go down under content, admin label. I'm going to call it CTA2. That way we should be able to identify it. Now you may notice I've got an icon on this one. I haven't put on this one. It's because we need something to close down the call to action. It's all very well flipping from the blurb to the call to action. If they click on the button, it'll take them somewhere. But if they don't want to click on the button, they want to be able to close it and perhaps go back to the blurb. So that's where the icon comes in. So if I flip back here, let's add a new module. Little icon right here. There's the icon module. I'm going to use a simple closing icon. Choose whichever one you want. Not going to put a link in there. Going to go over to my design now. Icon column itself, I'm going to make it white. It's going to disappear into the background there. I know the size I want. 25 pixels. I think that's what I use there. Always adjust it if it's wrong. Now right now it's sitting under here and it's invisible because it's white on white. I want it up over here somewhere. So to achieve that, we need to go to advanced. Still in the icon, remember. We're going to go down to position. I'm going to flip it from default to absolute. It puts it on the top left there. I want mine on the top right. And I want mine down and in a bit, perhaps a little bit like ours over there. To do that, we've got vertical and horizontal offset. I'm going to use 15 on both. Now, if you have trouble and that's sitting behind one of your elements here, you can put a high number in the z-index, just chuck a couple nines in there, and it should pull it on top. What the z-index does, it dictates what elements sit on top of others. So anything with a high z-index will sit on top of anything with a lower number. For instance, if this has a z-index of 10, and this icon has a z-index of 11 or higher, it will sit on top of it always. But I think we were okay. Just wanted to show you how to do that in case you needed it. Great, so we've got all our elements in place. So we know our call to action is going to be invisible when they load the page. It's, faded out here. But we want to be able to bring it back when they either click on more info or basically anywhere on the blurb. So let's go back into our blurb. As we've used a bit of negative margin, might need to go to wireframe up here to get to it. Here it is right here, BL2. Once you're in there, you can flip back. You're going to go over to advanced, and this is where you'll find the new interactions tab. If you click on it, we can add an interaction. What are we going to do? Well, when I click anywhere on our blurb module that we're sitting here, I want it to toggle the visibility of our call to action because it's hidden at the moment. We've hidden it on all devices. So if I click, it's going to make it visible. Which module? CTA2. There we are. And that's our admin label I told you. Got blurb 2 and CTA2. It makes it much easier to find because we've got the whole page tree. And if you've got a lot going on your page, it may be difficult to find these modules. So here we are. One we want to affect is call to action 2. Fantastic. So let's save that. Now initially I don't want to see this little icon, so we really need to make that invisible too. If I click on my icon and just get to it there, we'll do the same thing. I'm going to go over to visibility and make sure it's invisible on all devices initially when the page loads. Great. So when we click on our little blurb module, we also need to make that icon invisible. So if we go back now to our blurb module and add another interaction over in advanced interactions, I can copy this one because it's exactly the same thing. When we click, we want to toggle the visibility, but not of the call to action of our little icon, which is just under the call to action. I could have given that an admin label to make it easier. But then we've actually got to add some interactions to our icon here. A, so it'll close the call to action, and B, so it'll close itself also. So now I've clicked on the icon. Let's just flip back to desktop, more interesting to look at. We can add an interaction over in advanced interactions. First one, we want to close on click. We want to be able to toggle the visibility of our call to action. CTA2, fantastic. And the other thing, we want to toggle the visibility of itself as well. So again, I can just copy this one. I can go in there, or I can just change that from the call to action to the icon that we put just underneath it. We'll save that. Perfect. Well, let's have a look on the front end. If we've done everything correctly, this should work. Let's save draft. We'll close that out. We'll open a new preview. So we've got our little blurb module initially with our title, little icon and some info there. When we click on the more info, it's going to bring up the call to action. They can either click on the button if they read the title and info, or if they don't like it, they can click on the icon. And both the icon and call to action will disappear. Now I know I clicked on the more info there. I know it's a different color, but it is actually anywhere that we click on here is going to bring up that call to action. And that's a really neat little trick. We've done that before with JavaScript and things like that, but it's really handy being able to do it with a new interactions feature with no coding whatsoever. Well, we got a fun one for you today. We've got a landing page here. We've got a little pulsating icon right in the middle. When I click on it, it's going to pop up a little graphical menu just like this one. I've kept this pretty simple today. You can put as much stuff on here or as little stuff as you want. And they can either click on something and go to the page, or close it out and go back to where they were. Really easy to do with the new interactions features of Divi 5. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and start from scratch. We'll start a new page. And this would work great for an entrance page or something like that. So let's give it a title. I'll call it entrance. Now, before I hit the use Divi builder, I'm actually going to make some changes over here. I don't want to have a header. I've already got a global header on the site, and I don't want to have a footer. I just want to have a nice picture on the page with, as you saw, that little pulsing icon there. I've also got it set so that when we hover over it, it'll stop pulsing and they can click on it. So make sure there's no header. I'm going to go over to this side. I'm going to go down to default template. I'm going to left click on it. I'm going to hit a blank page. That way we'll have no header or anything like that. I had a question last time I did this. Somebody said you can't do that on a Mac. I'm using a PC for this today. Pretty sure you can. They're going to have something they're going to have this functionality, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar. So whoever that was, have another go. I'm pretty sure you're going to find it down here. Great. Well, now we've done that, let's use the Divi builder. I'm going to go ahead and build from scratch. By default, it puts in the section, blue tab at the top there. Wants us to put in a row. I'll do that in a moment. But let's throw in the image we want for this today. So I'm going to go into the section, the blue tab. Background's always under content. Third tab, choose a background image. There's a crazy image we used before. Let's drag one in that you want to use today. I'll use a different one. Just drop it in there. Great, but it's only showing at the top here. I want this section to be at minimum of 100% of the screen height on all devices at all times. We can fix that very easily. Still in the section, the blue tab over here. If we go to design and sizing, we can roll down. Minimum height will do 100, and just type VH for viewable height after it, or you can select VH from the column over here, and we've got a nice full width, full screen picture right there. Perfect. Now there's no content in here yet. Let's put some content in. It's going to prompt us to add a new row. A little green button right here. Left click. I'm going to use a single flex column, and here we'll use something to pop up the menu or whatever it is you want to pop up on yours. Last time I used an icon. As you can see, I just used that little arrow icon. You could use anything you want. Let's have a bit of fun and use my logo to pop up the menu today. So I'm going to hit image over here. Again, I'm going to browse. I know I've got a light version of my logo here somewhere. And here we are down here. Perfect. Let's throw that in. A little bit too big, but I think it's going to stand out okay. Remember, I'm going to end up putting this in the middle, and I think I'll have it pulsing like we had the other one, just to get people's eyes on it. So I'm going to shrink it down to maybe, well, let's say 350 pixels. We'll try that. We can always adjust it later. If you go over to design, sizing, here we've got width. Let's type in 350 and we can select pixels or just type px on the end. I think that's going to work size wise. And you can have it different sizes on different devices by hitting the little icon here. It'll allow you to put in what you want it on tablet and mobile. Really nice little addition that. I want it to be in the middle, so let's pop it in the center. And for the time being, I'm just going to leave it right there. It's going to end up in the middle, like I say, later on, pulsing a little bit. Let's now create the menu that we want to pop up, or whatever it is you want to pop up. And if you're using this for a splash page, you really want to put some information on here, some text about your site, etc. So that when the site gets crawled, there'll be some relevant information here. I've kept mine very simple. So let's add a new row, the green button. This time I'm actually going to use, well, think about what you want to display here, because I'm going to use images and a title to display the pages or posts or whatever it is you want to display on yours. So for mine, I think I'm going to have 3 in a row, which is fine here. We're going to delete one of these columns in a moment, and we're going to use the other column for a closing icon. But our first column is prompting us to put something in there. Now again, you can make these as complex as you want. I'm going to use the loop system, keep it fairly simple today. So I'm going to use an image module. Been using that a lot today. Now I'm going to use a new feature that they've just added with Divi 5 that's awesome. If we look over here, we've got elements. I want to add a little title or a heading module underneath it, but I want it to be part of the image itself. So we can hit add element. Let's find a heading module. There it is. Perfect. Probably can't see what's going on there. Let's make it so you can see it. Background again, always under content. Let's give it a nice black background that you can read. Perfect. Now if we just go over to our design, it's heading text. So I want it to be a heading 1. That should be for your page titles only, really. I think heading 3 will do my purposes today. I'll leave it on the default font. Don't particularly want it uppercase. Want it to be in the middle. Let's make it light in color. Don't think my page titles are too long, but I think I might take it down a little bit in size. Let's maybe take it down to 16. And to give it a bit more breathing room there, I'm going to use a bit of line height. I'm probably going to double it. Got a little arrow here. Let's take it up to about 2. Whatever works for you, obviously. Yeah, brilliant. Now I don't want any gap between the image and our little heading module. I want the image to feed straight into that thing. And then when they click on the image, it's going to take them to the page. So still in the image module, click on the image module. It says image up here. Remember our little heading module's inside that. We can go to our layout, should be set to flex. It is. And here's horizontal and vertical gap. If you take the vertical gap down to 0, they'll sit on top of each other. Exactly what I wanted. Great. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this column, and I'm going to use the featured image of whatever pages or posts you want to add to yours here, and I'm going to use the page title down here for dynamic content. Just for anybody that doesn't know exactly what I'm talking about, if we go back to pages here, for instance, if I hit edit on this page, if we look over here, when you first build your pages, and you can just hit edit pages I've done here, it'll take you to this page. I've given it a featured image right here. I've also given it a little excerpt. We're not using that today. But any of your pages, you can hit edit and add a featured image and an excerpt. That's what we're going to be pulling in today. If I just close that out and we go back here, let's go to one that doesn't have one perhaps. And you see you can add a featured image. You just click on it, it takes you to your library. And if you want to, you can add an excerpt right here. Little explainer there for anybody that wasn't sure about what was going on with the next bit. Okay, so remember I said we got some redundant columns here. I'm going to get rid of the third one. We will be using the second one in a moment. To do that, let's go into the row itself. Under content and elements, we'll find our columns. So the third one there, like I say, I'm going to hit the little trash can. Don't need that one. First one that we've built here, I'm going to loop it. So I'm going to go into the column itself by hitting the pencil. I'm going to go down to loop down here, which is another fantastic new addition to Divi 5. Clicked on it. I'm going to hit loop element. As you can see, it's made a whole bunch of those things. Okay, well, I don't want posts. I want pages on mine, so I'm going to get rid of posts. You can do it with posts if you've got blog posts, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to go for pages. And I only want to include specific pages. So you can do that, only include specific posts. Because we selected pages up here, anytime it says posts down here, it refers to the pages. So let's grab the pages we want. Home, about, services, pretty standard stuff here, pricing, projects, and a contact. Perhaps that'll do for the time being. 6 is enough. And it looks like a right mess up here. If we roll down a little bit further here, it tells you how many it's going to put. I've only put 6 on mine, but you can limit the amount down there if you need to. If you don't fulfill the limit, it'll just put in as many as you've got there. Like I say, that's a complete mess and really not what I'm looking for. But we can fix that very easy. We've looped this column, so all we need to do is wrap the row that it's sitting in. We're in the column right now. We can either go back to the row by clicking on row there, or we can just go back this way. Once we're in the row, we can go to design, layout, roll down a little bit, layout wrapping. Once I wrap it, it'll put it in 3 columns as we had it before. Perfect. And we got our little spare column down there that I'm going to put an icon in a moment. Great. Well, let's make the magic happen for our little menu here. Like I say, I want the featured image for each page to be the image itself. So if we click on the image, go to the content, click on the image again. Where it says image in the grey there, if we roll over it, we can go to the dynamic content icon here. We can select loop featured image. Perfect. I was a little afraid they didn't have featured images on all those pages, but that proved me wrong. So let's apply that. When they click on it, I'm going to go to the link down below. It wants to go to that specific page. So image link URL. Again, go over to the dynamic content. Loop link. Apply. They'll now take people to each specific page. Now if we go into our little heading module here, in the text and the content, we can do the same thing. Where it says heading in the grey, go over the dynamic content, loop post title, which will be the page title, home, about, project, services, etc. And again, let's hit apply. If you want to link it, we can link it to the loop link. I'm doing the whole module. And again, loop link. Great. And of course, if you want to add more, it'll start adding them in the same grid fashion. For instance, if we go back to the column, remember we're in the heading, which is inside the image, which is inside the column. So let's click on column. You want to add some more, we can go down to where it's looped down here. Just click after the last one there. Popped it up there. I'm surprised all of these have actually got featured images. Let's try sections. Yeah, that's great. And they'll stay in that little grid formation for you. You can order them and change things around down here. I'm going to leave them just like that. But of course, we're not going to see this at all times. I don't want to see it at all. So I'm going to go into the row. I'm going to give it a bit of a background. Content, background's always under content. Again, I've been using this black. We'll take the opacity down a bit so we can see some of the site behind there. Something like that, perhaps. We'll give it some breathing room over in design. And spacing. Top and bottom, well, I want to put an icon up there, so I'm going to give it 80 pixels on top. I'm going to give it 80 pixels on the bottom. And let's perhaps give it 30 left and right. And of course, you can just tablet and mobile here, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. And just to make it stand out a little bit more, I think I gave it a little light blue border with a glow effect. Really easy to do. If we go down the border just below here, all 4 sides, I'm going to give it just 1 pixel wide. And I think I used the default blue, the lighter of the two blues. And then to make it glow a bit, I went down to box shadow, used an all-round box shadow and used that same blue. It gave it a little glow around the outside there. Perfect. Great. Well, there's our little menu we want to pop up, but we've got to have something that when it pops up, they can close it down. So in our little spare column right here, I'm going to add a little icon. There's the icon module. Let's use an X or type close to find the closing icon type things. I think I used something like that before. It's great. I want to make it a lot smaller. Leave it on that same blue. Make it perhaps 25 pixels. Now we want to put it up wherever it is you want yours. I want mine sort of up here somewhere. So I'm going to go to the column that it's actually sitting in. I'm going to go over to advanced and position. I'm going to switch it from relative to absolute. You may think it's disappeared. It's not. It's popped up here. I want it on the right hand side. And I also want to make sure that our icon itself is aligned to the right hand side. If we go down to alignment here, pop it on right, perfect. Now if we go back to our column, I'm going to offset it just from the size there a little bit. By going back to our advanced and the position where we put it, it's got vertical and horizontal offset here. Let's give that 10 and 10. It's pixels by default. Perfect. Now z-index, I'll come back to that in a minute if we need it. That's the stacking order. If we have a trouble when we click on this in a moment, we may need to adjust that. Okay, so here we have it on desktop. Let's take a look at it on tablet. That's fine too. It's very readable and they can get to everything. On mobile, stacking on top, that's perfect. Great. Well, let's go back to desktop now. And like I say, we don't want to see this thing at all. But when it pops up, I want to make sure that it pops up right in the middle of our screen here. So I'm going to make sure I'm sitting on the row by clicking on the green tab here. Again, we're going to go to advanced and down to position. I'm going to change it from relative to actually fixed this time. I'm going to pop it right in the middle. And don't worry about that logo. We're going to have that behind it in a moment and it's going to be down here in the middle. We may need to adjust our z-index to make that happen in a moment. Let's just check. On tablet, that's fine. On mobile, yeah, I want it aligned at the top really. There we go, so they can see the top of it there. Now we want to make sure that they're able to scroll too, so that's really important. If we've got more than fits the screen, we're okay on tablet, but on mobile, while we're in the row, let's go over to advanced. We're going to close that position this time. Going to go down to visibility, horizontal overflow where we haven't got any, vertical overflow is what we got. Let's enable scroll by turning scroll on. That way when they look at it on a phone, they'll be able to scroll down all our little pages here. Great. Well, we've popped it in the middle, but we don't want to see it. So we've got to create some interactions. One on our little logo here, that when we click on the logo, it's going to pop up our row here that our menu's in. So to make things easier, I'm going to give this a title or an admin label. So again, make sure we're in the correct row that we want to pop up. Always under content at the bottom, you'll find admin label. Now let's call it Popup. And you'll see how relevant that is when we add our interaction. So let's add the interaction. When they click on this logo, let's go into the image itself. Over in advanced, we'll find the new interactions tab. When they click on that image or my logo there, wants to toggle the visibility. Visibility of what? This row right here. Remember we gave it that admin label. Now if you've got a whole page full of stuff, it's hard to find the right things sometimes. So if you give it an admin label, pop up, we know which to select. Perfect. And what toggle does, if it's showing and you click on it, it's going to hide it. if it's not showing and you click on it, it'll show it. Let's save that. Now we want to do a similar thing for our little icon right here. Let's make sure we get in the icon. If you have trouble because things are sort of stacked over the top of each other here with this fixed positioning, we can go to wireframe mode and get into our icon very easily that way. When you're in there, you can flip back. We want to add that same interaction. On click, what do we want it to do? We want to close this thing down. Toggle visibility. Which one? The pop-up. Perfect. Now with our row, we want to make sure that it's invisible on all devices when the page loads. So again, I've clicked on the row, we're in the row. Advanced. Visibility again this time. I'm going to disable it on all devices and you'll see it kind of grey out there. Okay, the last thing I really want to do is my little logo there I want right in the middle of the page right here. And it looks like it's on top of our row, so we may have some problems in a minute, but we'll fix those if we have them. So here's the row the logo's in. I can see the green tab right there. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go into this particular row itself. Advance. This time we'll go back to position. Sure you figured it out. I want it bang in the middle. So I'm going to say position fixed. Where do I want it? Right in the middle of the page right there. Great. That looks like it may have sorted out our little z-index thing that was going on there. Well, let's see if this is going to work. We'll save draft. We'll preview the page. There it is. We got that nice little image there. We got the logo. I'm going to add an animation to that in a minute so it's a little more pronounced. When they click on the logo, it pops up that little menu right there. They can click on one of these, take them to the page, click back on the menu there, perfect. When they click on this little thing here, it should close it down. Wonderful. Okay, couple of little things. Let's make this grow a little bit so it's very pronounced. And if you want it to have a cursor or a little hand type icon when they hover over it, we can add a little bit of CSS to make that happen too. And don't let that scare you, it's 2 words. So let's go back there, let's fix what we've got going on here. Let's go over to wireframe mode. Here's our image, which is the logo right here. I'm going to go into it, we can switch back whenever you're ready. Over in the advanced tab, I'm going to go to the custom CSS. And to make the mouse cursor turn into a hand, all we need to do is go from freeform CSS, I'm going to go to module elements, roll down to the main element right here. I'm just going to say cursor, colon, pointer, P-O-I-N-T-E-R. And I'll copy that. And we'll do the same thing for our icon up here. Make sure we're in the icon. Pop over to module elements, make sure we're in the right place. Main element, pop that in there. Perfect. Now to make our little logo bounce up and down a little bit, let's go back into there. We'll go back into that image once more. We're going to use the freeform CSS tab this time. I'm just going to write a bit of CSS. I'll flip it around so you can see what's going. To target the actual module itself, all we have to do is write selector, and that will target the image module. S-E-L-E-C-T-O-R. Then we'll open and close some curly brackets, and we're going to create an animation. So A-N-I-M-A-T-I-O-N. We'll give it a name. Let's call it Pulse, P-U-L-S-E, or whatever you want to call yours is fine. Wants to be unique though, there can only be one animation of that name on the page. I'm going to run mine for 3 seconds, 3S, and I want it to keep going and going. So it'll be infinite, I-N-F-I-N-I-T-E. Great, well now we've actually created that, we need to create the keyframes for the animation. So let's drop down a little bit more. I'm going to say at and the word keyframes, K-E-Y-F-R-A-M-E-S. The name that we gave it, which is Pulse, P-U-L-S-E. Now we can open some more curly brackets and tell it what we want to do with the time that we've got, which is 3 seconds. Well, at 0%, when the page loads, don't want it to really do anything. So I'm using, let's open some more curly brackets. I'm going to be using transform scale for mine, which will make it grow and shrink. So we'll say transform colon, scale. Right at the end of scale with no gap, you can put some round brackets and tell it by how much you want it to grow. Well, initially, like I say, I don't want it to grow at all. So 1 would be 100% or normal size. So let's put a little semicolon after that. And let's just copy this now from the 0%. I drag that back a bit and put it all on one line. From the 0% to our first closing bracket there. Control C to copy. I'm going to drop down twice. Control V to paste. Let's make sure it's back on the left hand side. Same thing. Second one I'm going to make 50%, halfway through, so 1.5 seconds. I want it to be like a quarter bigger, so I'll say 125%. And as you can see, it started pulsing there already. Then when it gets to 100%, or the end of the 3 seconds, I want it to go back to normal size. Perfect. And if you want to slow it down, make that time bigger. As you can see, that's slowing it down. If you want to speed it up, make it shorter. I think 3 is okay. I think I might make it linear, might make it a bit smoother if we just write linear after that. And we got 1 second instead of 3. I think that's fine, just like that. Now I know some people are intimidated by CSS code here. If that's the case, I'll copy this, I'll drop it down below the video. You can just copy it and paste it and adjust it to your needs. Now I also want it to stop when they put their mouse on it. So what we can do is copy this little top bit selector to the first closing bracket there. Control C, we can drop down a little bit more. Repaste it in there. After the R of selector with no gap, we need to put in a little colon and the word hover. And we want to say animation none. N-O-N-E. That way when they put their mouse on it, on hover, it'll stop the animation. Great, well let's check that out. We'll resave. And we'll re-preview. And there we have it. We've got the logo pulsing away there. When I hover over it, it's going to stop. As you can see, when they hover over it, it's now got the hand icon. When I click on it, it's going to pop up our little menu there. When I hover over our little closing icon there, it should have our little hand menu too. That's great. One more time. And let's check it on tablet and mobile. If I hit my F12 key, here we have it on an iPad Air. As you can see, you can get to all of them perfectly on that one. It's going to close OK. It's going to open OK. You may find with some mobile devices, animations will get blocked. Let's have a look on an iPhone. And we'll pop it up. A little problem with our menu right there on mobile we need to fix. We can do that by giving our row a maximum height here. Let's do that quickly and we'll come back to this. Let's just shut that down. Make sure we're in the row itself. What we can do is go down to mobile version itself. We gave it the scroll option, but it doesn't know to scroll because it's trying to force the whole height there. Over in design, sizing, we can give it a maximum height of 100. Viewable height, you guessed it. Perfect. Now if we save, re-preview, let's go down to mobile version. Perfect. And we click on it. Now we can scroll. Just exactly what I wanted. So we've got that on mobile. We've got this on tablet. And of course, we've got this on desktop. So there you go, guys. There's how to create a nice little entrance page for your site. Like I say, if you're doing this, you probably want to put more stuff on here than I've got on my page so that browser bots know what your site's about. But that's a really nice little feature. And we've used a lot of the new features of Divi 5 to do this, such as interactions. It really is going to be fantastic when they put the final version out. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, if you've got any questions about Divi 4 or Divi 5, put them down below. I'll do my best to answer them for you or make a little demo video just like this one. So I hope you've enjoyed this today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.